Oh my god. Please tell me we're all right with this. It says excellent connection now. Yeah, I have no idea what happened then. Apparently we've got an amazing connection now, so I genuinely have no idea what's different about now and like 2 seconds ago. The internet just decided to cut out for the stream, so that was awkward. I do apologise about that. What the fuck are they doing? Anyway. I continue what I was saying in the last part, so I do apologise. Yeah, so in an open world game, it's always really important for the game to account for the player being able to do whatever the game will allow them to do, if that makes sense. So, for example, so for example, if the game allows me to go to a specific location straight away, then account for that. You know, I'm not saying make that area easier as a result, but what I'm saying is that, like, there are levels in this place that are designed specifically around stealth, for instance. And if you want me to go to that place only when I've got the ability to perform like an assassination technique, well, there you go then. Like, lock it off until I've got the assassination technique. I don't care how brutally you do it, just do it if you think that, like, assassination is the only way to go in that scenario. Otherwise, we've got a really big problem later on. I suppose we're gonna do that. That'd be the best way to get it. So the beachside camping and head there. What about this? What's this over here? Yeah, that'll be the best place to go for it, actually. But yeah, like I generally don't understand why developers will allow that sort of stuff to happen. But when me and Jack were talking about the likes of Caelid today. We're going to get into Caelid proper in a future part, but when we were talking about Caelid in Elden Ring, the idea that you can go there from the get-go, but the game shoves like some of its hardest enemies there. Its roadblock is literally, it's one of the worst roadblocks in a video game I've seen, and that's, it utilizes rot a lot. Like, the idea is that rot will just eat away at your health, so if you're not prepared for that, and you don't have the vitality for it, you'll just get, well, you'll just be heavily annoyed. So either you brute force it and you're really patient and you manage to get through the entire area despite dying a shit ton, or you realise that, oh, the game doesn't actually want me to be here at this point, and you go away. Same applies with things like poise, which can be naturally built up through other stats, attacks as well, just in general, like the amount of damage you deal. It's really awkward to say that Elden Ring can unironically and unintentionally become a DPS game past a point. It's been really interesting in taking a bit more of a deep dive into that game. I'm actually exploring it on a level a bit deeper than what I did in my playthrough. Because when I get to go back through that stuff in like retrospect, for example, I can properly like analyze what I have played up until that point. Oh, I forgot that I've got a new technique, don't I? A new technique point. Where's the you? Good stuff. Yeah. That means that we can finish off that it? First, that was it. Okay, so we can finish off deflection now, can't we? Because we've got 2. Do I get a trophy for that? No? That sucks. Yeah, so we'll focus on evasion next, and then we will do movesets and all that jazz later on. Search for the stolen food. I'm doing my best. I figured it would be there. Apparently not. Return to the woods? The woods is everywhere, so it is here? Is this not food? That looks like food. Oh. Was it this side quest that I played? Or something else? Where the idea is that the wood and that the rice, I think it might have actually been this side quest when I first played this game way back when. The rice isn't his, is it? I'm pretty sure. Like, I'm 90% sure that we're about to find out that the rice isn't hers. And she's just taking it because... That's an awkward moral situation, that though, right? Like, would you steal food from your enemies? In wartime? Maybe, to get them desperate. But I can't imagine doing something like that, like, in a casual scenario, right? that's just a little awkward. Oh shit! Well, wait, was the game glitched before? Because there's shit here that wasn't here beforehand. Okay. Reduces all damage a minor amount. Can I just use that on anything? I can. Holy crap. Deal bonus. Yeah, I think that we're just gonna have to. It's a thing where, like, I think that we've got the best charms that we possibly can get at this point, and the only real way we're going to be able to do off any of that stuff is by what's the word for it? It's by continuing on with the game. Do I just write about now? Because I'm I'm looking at this and, like, we've got question mark there, question mark there, and question mark there. But in terms of this area, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. We're just gonna like slap a waypoint there and just go for it. The reason why I'm doing that is because I know that if I go back to one of the main towns, there's going to be a rumour dude, and I don't want to find these things through rumours. I want to find these things naturally. I mean, hell, look at that. What's that over there? Is that... That's a logging base. Why is it still on fire? We dealt with that. Ooh, what's that? Okay, so... That's that little bit of fog done up. And look, you've already found somewhere different. Although that feels like... we're heading back the way we came. That's awkward. I don't care about artifacts. Is that okay? Fine. The game just throwing shit at me now. What's this over here then? Taking bets? Ooh! I've arrived! Flomp. You've got... That's good. How much do we need to upgrade our katana? Supply... Oh! We just need one more iron and a bit more of yield supplies. Ooh. I had fatigue from this earlier on today, and I've sort of circled back around at this point to thinking like, you know what, I like it. I still like this game a lot. I do just think that once again, as I keep saying, I know I'm a broken record, but incentive is missing here. No, because you've only got aesthetical things, and I don't care about aesthetical things. What are you? Trapper. I'm all good. I'm good. Bamboo. Okay. I guess they don't have anything of worth there, but that's fine. So how? How does that happen? Why is that popped up? Is that because we're close? Like, we're close-ish to have a hint of it, but... I think what this game does with its open world in terms of finding things is a decent compromise to what Breath of the Wild tried to do, right? Because I would sooner have it be that I run about the world and then markers start getting placed as I see things, rather than the game basically going like obscure with it, if that makes sense. Like too obscure or too one way or the other, because that's something we could talk about very, very quickly as well. I mean, I'm going to do it when I go back to Breath of the Wild soonish, because that playthrough just entered on hold. I'm 100% aware of that, but I'll be going back to that soon. So Breath of the Wild and the whole UI argument where people are going, oh, well, you know, how funny is it that Ubisoft does all this stuff with it? Ubisoft UI isn't really a problem. Are people confused, like, UI issues with the alternative word? Because I don't think that the Ubisoft UI was ever an issue for me. It was always more to do with the sheer amount that was going on with it instead, if that makes sense. So, for example, being told that there are, going up to a perch point and observing things around me, like the tower scenario in Far Cry, and seeing what's about the place and all that sort of stuff, as a result for getting high and actually visually seeing it, I don't have an issue with that. Filling out the map, fine, absolutely. Oh, the internet's doing a thing again. I don't have an issue with that. I'm absolutely fine with the idea of that. It's not to do with like a minimal HUD. I don't think that a minimalized HUD is necessarily the way to go, because I still think that, like, you're playing a game, right? And the player still needs to be conveyed information, so it's either you straighten up the design of your world, or you have a HUD. You know, if you can't afford to make everything unique and stand out, then a HUD is the way to go. And that's something that we're going to talk a little bit about at some point with the Elden Ring review, because I think that the HUD in that game, when we talk about the UI, the patches that they did to Elden Ring at some point, they like overcompensated with the patches. I feel like so everything that you can see within Elden Ring is now just overkill when it comes to it's just overkill when it comes to the amount that's being the amount that's the player's being informed on, and one of them is like NPC locations, right? So From Software's answer, and this is similar to the Ubisoft problem, right? So the From Soft answer to the NPCs being scattered all over the place and running everywhere isn't to improve the NPC locations and make them easier to find, and make them logical, or at least hint towards where they're going to go next. From Software's answer was to put world map markers down telling you where NPCs are after you've meeting them once. That's not good. That's quite bad. That's actually terrible. That's the complete opposite of what they should have done with that, and that is the Ubisoft problem right there. The issue isn't to do with the implementation of HUD elements. It's to do with their purpose and the reason for why they're there. Are they needed, for example? So, and if they're there, what are they replacing? Because let's be honest, having a map in a video game basically exists to make the world readable, which should tell you that the world, that maybe the best thing to do in this scenario is to make the world readable. You know, instead of having a world map, maybe make it a little bit more obvious where landmarks are. Maybe design the world in such a way that it's more apparent where you are in it, so you can actually triangulate your position through learning about the world instead. I mean, hell, Dark Souls nails that. You don't need a world map in the first Dark Souls game because every area is recognizable in and of itself. You know where to go, you know what to do in that game. And I feel like that is the gold standard for world and level design. Hell, even Bloodborne's amazing with that as well. You always know where you are at any point in the likes of Dark Souls and Bloodborne. The issue stems from the issue stems from them getting almost like complacent with streamlining their games. So, for example, combat and attacks and all that sort of stuff become a little bit more, let's say, spectacular rather than actually mechanically useful. So now you're watching like a 10-second animation of your character doing an over-the-top alley-oop super duper like attack, in comparison to a simple swing and jab. Like, it looks pretty, but what do you gain from it? A nice visual. Okay, done. What else? Nothing else. Ah, there's your problem. You see, like, it's as simple as that. Once, all you have to do is think about, okay, so what is the the objective value of having super duper alley-ooper attacks? Or rather, like, elongated animations for attacks, and the answer will always be that there isn't an objective value in it. It's always going to be subjective. The value in something like that is going, wow, that visual is pretty. Okay, but that is a subjective statement. So you're putting your preference over. You're putting your preference over, once again, the objective value of something like that. You might be wondering where this conversation is leading. It's actually leading to praise. Quite a bit of praise towards this game. Combat isn't flashy, because it doesn't need to be. It's skill based here, and I like that a lot. But I definitely feel like the world that I'm in terms of readability, if we're going back to maps, is... It's fine, right? I can sort of tell where I am at most times in this game. But that doesn't mean that I don't have to check the map. If I have to keep checking the map for my location, that's an issue. And I don't get why people have become complacent with that as well. Like, surely if you have to keep checking a map in order to know where you are in the world, that tells you that you don't know where you are in comparison to something else. Which in turn should tell you, okay, well, how have you lost yourself? How have you done that? And the answer can be very simple. You can just say, oh well, I lost our beach shrine. Hang on, isn't that... We've been to Arrow Peak Shrine before, haven't we? Was it part of a side quest? I think maybe it was. We just haven't... That's why this little area's gone greyed out. Okay, cool. Yeah, so... Yeah, as I was saying, the idea that... you know, I'm wondering about this at the moment. And if I stopped here, would you, without looking at a map, would you be able to tell where I am in the world? No. I mean, if I did that, no, not really. And it's down to assets, right? So assets need to be copied and pasted. I understand. It's not a criticism. It's a fact of of the industry. The fact that it's always going to. It's always going to be something that's like a survivable, if that's a term, thing, where it's always going to make more sense for someone to it's always going to make more sense for someone to copy an asset than it is to create a new one. And under the demands of, you know, if you want to get your game out, it's obviously going to be a really difficult thing to make everything in your game solely original. So yes, it is fine, because also not everything in the world is original. You know, we have building layouts that are copied, like complexes and stuff like that, so that's fine. It's more to do with, once again, readability in general. The idea that, would you be able to tell what a town looks like from looking at the town? Like looking at a landmark, for instance? There's going to be something to take out this guy proper. But yeah, kunais all the way for that. Yeah, hopefully you sort of get what I mean by that. Like, you want something like a tower or something recognisable, something that me and Jack mentioned in the podcast, or rather I bring it up as like an example for why I think that the overall world design in Elden Ring is the better than people give it credit for, and why it doesn't really need a world map. The Divine Towers. The Divine Towers are a really great landmark to sort of for the player to sort of be able to tell where they are in comparison to everything. And when you're up there, you can see all around. Hell, after you've done Stormvale, you've got a perfect view of Laronia afterwards. So what I'm basically saying is that I don't think Elden Ring needs a world map. I think it just needs to improve its readability when it comes to its NPCs. I don't think that's something that is too much to ask for. You know, you can have like dialogue suggesting that an NPC is going off in a certain direction. There you go, job done. That's all you need to do. So yeah, it's stuff like that where it's like, okay, so what's the issue? What's more important in the likes of Elden Ring and its world? Is it that in a scenario where its NPCs are too hard to locate because there's no real suggestion as to where that someone like Alexander goes off to? How do you improve that? Well, the answer should not then be we put markers on the map in order to make we put markers on the map in order to allow the player to be able to like follow NPC quest progression easier. No, that's not the way you should have done that. That's addressing the problem by causing another problem. And you may think that, like, okay, putting some NPC quest markers on a map isn't a big deal. Like, that's not an issue. It is. Because what happens when you start adding things to a world map? You start paying less attention to the world. You're focusing more on a bit of paper in front of you than you are the actual layout and the design of the world you're in. So in a way, FromSoft haven't fixed anything, they've only added another problem. Because at the end of the day, when something like that happens, yeah, the NPC locations still don't stack up. They still don't make a lot of sense to the player, rather there's no indicator that certain NPCs are going to be in certain locations. So that should have been fixed. Over adding... Can I just point that out as well, by the way? Not only did FromSoft... This is something I'm going to talk about in a later podcast part, but not only did FromSoft decide to add... not only did FromSoft decide to add... for some reason... NPC locations into the world map. They also, for some reason, decided to do what I think is infinitely worse. They put down the locations of map pieces, of map fragments, on the world map. What is the point of having map fragments in order to, like, unveil, if you will, the world map itself? If you're just going to put them on the map, you're 1 degree away from just going, fuck it, the player can see everything on the map from the get-go. And once again, that's another issue, because it's all coming back to the readability of the world. Why are you why did you hide map fragments in the first place? Did someone complain that map fragments were too hard to find? Then make the map fragments easier to find. Or better yet, if you have to have map fragments and you have to seek out map fragments in the game, surely that should then inform the developers that what they should be prioritizing in that scenario is streamlining, oh, not streamlining, sorry, is fixing up the world design. Like, the emphasis on the update was making the world map significantly more readable, right? In order to slap down map markers and shit like that on there in order to, well, streamline the design of the map. Okay, so what's the overarching issue that should be pointed out then? That the world requires a map in the first place to follow. That is an issue. That means that the level design in that in Elden Ring, in terms of world design rather, is a problem. And you know what? The answer's staring them in the face. They've got the sights of grace. They point actively in the direction of bosses. So if you're ever lost, go to a site of grace. That should point you towards like the nearest like boss location, which should point you towards a landmark. Once you're there, you know where you are in comparison to the rest of the world. Ergo, you do not need a map marker. But for some reason, they kept adding them. They kept adding them, and then they added like the option for the player to put emblems and shit down on the map as well, in order to once again like streamline things even further past that point. It just... Are we good? Are we live? Can I do that? We're good? Okay, we're good. We're good. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so what I'm saying is that I think that one of the worst bits about what happened with Elden Ring is the fact that its world is readable. I genuinely think that the answer for everything that's going on with Elden Ring is right in front of it. Oh, we did the terrifying thing. That's awesome. It's RNG, which is a little weird, but I'll allow it. But yeah, the idea that the world of Elden Ring already has a solution. That was awesome. Yeah, the fact that like Elden Ring has a very active solution for its world map problem is annoying to me on so many levels. Because I don't like, even from like the base game, like the original patch, I only when I was playing that, the only real issues I had were like technical problems. I didn't really have any issues with the likes of the actual base game itself. Well, there were fundamental flaws, of course, but I mean in terms of like the world design, I didn't have any issues with that. It's priorities is what it is, and it's very awkward, very awkward. Shit. I generally think that there's like... What's genuinely what's happening here? Okay, we're good. I might have to just stop streaming in a sec if the internet's going to keep doing this. I do apologise. I'm doing my best here. I really don't know what's happening. Where are you running off to? Where's he gone, actually? Oh, he's calling a horn. Yeah, like I've got some pretty big issues with Elden Ring overall. I don't think that they ruin like my overall enjoyment of the game. I think that there's definitely more pros than cons. It's easier just to point out the negatives than it is the positives, but that's the same for a lot of things. But regardless, it's like that was just the one one big thing that happened with that game that made me look at it and go, why the fuck did you do that? Why why? They went out of their way to make the game worse. It's just... Jesus Christ, you know? And what's even worse is that people shield for it. They were like, oh, thank God, this fixes a number of issues, this update's massive. It's like, yes, it's a massive pain in the arse. How to reduce playtime in a game like that, instead of actively going out of your way and exploring the environment, oh, I know, let's just put more map markers down. We want the player to be able to see, to be able to experience as much of the world as possible. Don't you think that the player should be, you know, earning that? That's sort of what Dark Souls did. Like, if you wanted to go to somewhere like Ash Lake, for example, you had to, you had to earn the, sort of like, not earn the right, you had to earn your way to get through to somewhere like Ash Lake. And at the end of the day, I think that what's interesting about the world design of Elden Ring versus the world design of something like Dark Souls is that people are always going to... There are going to be a lot of people... There are a lot of people, rather, that say that... I didn't mean to do that. There are a lot of people that say the likes of there are a lot of people that say the likes of oh, come on. There we go. Yeah, there are a lot of people that say the likes of Elden Ring has a better world because it's open world. I beg to differ. I really, like, when it was announced that Elden Ring was going to be an open world FromSoft game, I wasn't jumping for joy, because From Software are known for their mainly for their tightly designed levels. So hearing that they were going to be moving away from that was actually a negative in my mind. And yeah, that's pretty much how it turned out. You sacrifice the readability and even like the enjoyability of going through somewhere like you sacrifice the readability and even the enjoyability of going through. I know enjoyability is subjective, but you sacrifice something like the world of Dark Souls in terms of like. Well, once again, how readable it is. I mean, think about this, right? There's never a point in the world of Dark Souls where I didn't know where I was in comparison to something else. Is that because of the more linear design? No, I think that's because the linear... I think that the... I think that a side effect of the linear design... Oh, rather the other way around. I think the side effect of making a more tight... a tightly designed world was the fact that it was more linear in nature. Does that then make Dark Souls 1 a worse game because it's linear? No. Does it make it less believable because it's linear? No. And I think that's the important thing, right? Like, let's properly think about this for a second. Linearity in the world. Okay, what's more believable? An open world where everything is opened up, and I mean like 90% of things are opened up. You can go fucking anywhere. You can just like wander off. There are large open fields all over the place. There are big stretches of land to wander. There are camps about the place. Is that more believable than what Dark Souls does? In my opinion, no, because we literally construct our world in a linear design. We've paved out roads, for example. We've been doing this for centuries. Roads exist for a reason. We streamlined how we move about the world in order to make it more readable. So, in a way, I think that Dark Souls 1 is a more believable open world than Elden Ring is in any um, like capacity. Like honestly, think about the way Elden Ring's world like cobbles together. It's beautiful. It looks nice, but can you imagine people living there? Can you imagine people doing their day-to-day routine there? No. No, you cannot. And if you say yes, I'm sorry, but you are lying to me. I know that sounds like I'm being an arse, but genuinely think about that for a second. Think of how the world of Elden Ring is built up in comparison to that of Dark Souls. Limgrave, right? Okay, so there's a graveyard. You start off in like this crypt area. I wouldn't really call it catacombs, but you start off in an area like that. Okay, cool, fine. Then you've got fields as far as the eye can see, mixed in with marshland, mixed in with a castle. Okay, well maybe the castle's habitable. You know, maybe inside the castle they've got quarters. They've got places for people to live. Go into the castle? No. You've got courtyards. You've got a church. You've got you've got like a cafeteria. You don't have houses. You don't have places for civilians to live. It's not a habitable place for people. Now, compare that to the Undead Settlement, which literally has it in its name. Yeah, even Blight Town's got like little huts about the place. It's really... it's fascinating to me. Like, the world of Elden Ring is fascinating to me in the way that it doesn't mesh together, if that makes sense. Like, you stare at... like at Lorenia, for example. Big old academy in the centre. An academy. Keep that in mind. An academy. Okay. So academy offers places for like students to sleep and stuff like that. And also, if there's an academy there, that would then probably entail that there is a form of like civilization nearby, a village of some sort, right? No. The nearest village is Jar. What's it called? Like the Jar village. That's it. You've got a little settlement that's put to one side, but that settlement is very haphazardly made, and it's just placed there. I do not believe that people went from there to the academy. I do not believe that people lived in Lorenia as like a functioning what's the word for it? I want to say civilization. That's not it. As like a functioning community. That's it. I think that's the biggest thing that's lost from Elden Ring's design, is that you can't imagine a community living there. I can imagine it being under siege. I can imagine people. Like fighting in it with the barracks that we see and stuff like that. It's a believable war zone, don't get me wrong, but it was like a livable place turned into a war zone. The capital is the most convincing place for people to live in, and you go there and the majority of the buildings are they aren't houses. And I said, it's mental to me. Where's the fox gone? Yeah, you are. But yeah, you think about all the areas in the likes of Dark Souls, and they all sort of network together to make one functioning location, right? So you've got, ignore the Undead Asylum because that's literally a prison, but still it works. It's a prison out in the middle of nowhere. Fine. Then move on to Firelink Shrine. Okay, it's a little hub in the middle of nowhere. Not too much importance to note there, but you've got the catacombs and the crypt to one side. It's aptly, oh, we can pet the fox. Aptly named for exactly what it is. And then you've got a route that leads to the undead settlement. Now, before it's the undead settlement, you can see that this was it was a town. It was a network of places for people to live. Okay, cool, awesome. I've got that. I understood that. That's great. It makes sense. The location of it makes sense, and because the catacombs and the graveyard is nearby, it all works together. It all feeds into right. From there to the sort of prevent the the poor and the lesser classes from going up to the likes of Analondo. So now with the depths, you can tell. Okay, so that's where all the sewage goes. I'm sorry about that, folks. There we go. But yeah, as I was saying, like in terms of like the depths, you can tell that that's where all the yak goes and all that. I'm sorry about the skipping about, by the way. The stream's struggling at the moment, so I'm probably just going to end this soon. But yeah, you can tell that like all the junk and the trash and all that sort of shit goes down there, and literal shit for that matter. Oh. Come on, internet, why are you doing this to me? I'm just looking at this and I'm hoping that's keeping up and it's not going to crash. Okay, we're good. We'll do this one thing and then I'm going to end it there. But yeah, you've got the depths where you can tell like literal shit goes to and stuff like that. The likes of Blighttown underneath being like where the ill and sort of like the deranged and the incredibly shit, that's fine. Oh god, even my pop filter's deciding to kill itself. Yeah, so yeah, the Blighttown is like where the ill and the even lower class go to, so you do get like this full hierarchy of this full location going on throughout the entirety of the game. But you can see how it all believably connects together. You can see why there's a purpose for every area in the game. The more fanatical areas even have a place as well. It's more to do with like where they are in like the location of things. So say like even if we include like the archives, for instance. The archives make sense. Like Analondo makes sense, you know. Even like why it's big, there is a logical explanation behind stuff like that. Because the people that existed back then were bigger than we are. That's it. Oh god, this is pissing me off now. Right, okay, this is fine, because I'm just doing this. I'm spamming circle! Are you... That's... That's it, he's dead. That's fine. Oh, it was Kunai. No, it was generally an archer all the way up there. I see him. Oh, fuck this. Okay, hang on. At least that's dealt with now. Oh, you...